Morning, folks. I would call this the old dark 30 edition, but quite honestly, it's a little bit closer to a quarter to one. But nonetheless, you know who I am, you know what time it is, and you know what the place is. For the uninitiated, that would be Red, aka Shaka, submoniker Black Magic. The place, the video blog / column known as The Other Side of the Ropes. Not quite at the 7th anniversary, but I figured I'd throw an early edition anyway. Hey, I'm on a roll here. For the rest of you guys who are trying to figure what I'm trying to do, alright. Kind of a follow-up to that last thing. We're talking about the sickness the last time, and then I kind of did the whole thing with the Bill Watts corollary, or the Watts corollary. And for those of you who kind of didn't quite catch what the corollary was, well, corollary to what? Piper's Law. Piper's Law was about the sickness. What's the sickness? It's that thing that drives our frat brothers, even if they don't realize they're frat brothers, even though they are. And there's a lot of them out there. It's the motivation that makes them do what they do. And given the era, it makes them doing some very irrational things. The corollary? Well, real quick, Piper's Law. One moment. Piper's Law states that the amount of sickness within the wrestler is in direct proportion to the amount of manipulation in a promoter. The Watts corollary, work or shoot, is still competition. Now, I know I may sound a bit preachy to some of y'all, but here's the thing. You know what? You can think I'm preachy all you want, but I refuse to sound stupid, and I got a lot of stuff to back me up here, folks. Now, for those of you who have no idea the roots of this game, and I know you don't, for those of you who don't know, this is a whole bit about the debate between mixed martial arts, professional wrestling, so on and so forth. Guys, there's a lot more in common with the WWF, not WWF, and UFC besides Brock Lesnar. And if you don't believe me, think about the rules that we go by in wrestling. You win by pinfall or submission. You don't do that in collegiate or in intramural or high school wrestling or folk style wrestling. You only get a takedown and a pin. Where does submission come from? Simple. Catch as catch can. Now, pioneer for strong style wrestling, Karl Gotch, actually reinforced rules. He also encouraged the whole notion of shoot fighting to go on. And his fellow classmate and fellow frat brother, younger frat brother from the Wigan Snake Pit, Billy Robinson, went on to teach the next generation during the 90s, which started the next craze or started the next phase that would end up setting off the whole trend of mixed martial arts. But before that time, it was known as no holds barred fighting, the shoot fighters. And from this class, you had guys like Kazushi Sakuraba, Ken and Frank Shamrock, and Josh Barnett, who has raced inside not just a cage, but a wrestling ring. You don't believe me? Check out the thing with Josh Barnett. He wrestles in IGF or New Japan Wrestling, as well as being in the cage. You see him in Strikeforce. Anyway, Karl Gotch had a set of rules here, and this is from the back of Say Uncle. Karl Gotch's rules for modern catch wrestling, and it was suggested by Coach Jake Shannon, who does workshops along with Dick Cardinal and Billy Robinson for certification for catch as catch can or scientific wrestling. If you check back on the some of the commentary of the old WWF, you will hear that term. After that, it doesn't exist. Kind of like what they did to Benoit. I said it. Anyway, King of Catch Wrestling Tournaments. This is the rules that Karl Gotch had. Real quick. Submission or pin wins. All submissions are permitted, and the pin count is 3. Both scapulae, for those of you who don't know what that is shoulder blades, must be touching for the full count of 3 by the referee. Slamming and strangles are allowed. All matches are best 2 out of 3. Win, lose, or draw. No point system is used to determine the final outcome. Sound familiar? In the event of a draw during tournament play, a rematch is played. In the event of a second draw, both wrestlers will be eliminated. 12-minute time limit per fall with 1 minute of rest in between. All matches occur in a ring or a mat. While any body part or ropes are out of bounds can break the action, such a break is entirely at the referee's discretion. This discretionary measure is included to prevent the aggressive wrestler from being punished and to prevent the passive wrestler from stalling and forcing resets by intentionally going out of bounds. All referee-mandated resets start the opponents in the center of the wrestling area with the offending wrestler in the down low defensive position. You don't see that very often, do you? Now, no striking. Yeah, no brawling. In other words, punching and kicking. That's why they did the whole thing with shoot fighting. And the kicker to that was closed fists go to the body, open hand strikes go to the face. Check it out. Anyway, no striking, no biting, eye gouging, hair pulling, instant disqualification. Where's the fun in that? You ever watch some of these things, you'd understand. The divisions included, we're talking weight classes, super heavyweight, that's over 225. Heavyweight is over 200. Light heavy, 180 pounds and over. Middleweight is 160 and over. Lightweight is 140, and then there's open weight. So, what's that tell you, folks? Weight classes were enforced. People are wondering why wrestling doesn't take seriously, because nobody enforces these sort of things. Now, you want to talk about the entertainment thing? Okay, I got that too. Boy, have I got that covered. Let's see. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. An event that will make history. And let's see. Vince McMahon Sr., Vincent J., had decided he and his son were going to take over the world. He said they had big hopes for me. We're talking Piper here. But he wanted to make sure I wasn't afraid to work against any other promoter. I had no problem with this. But like I said before, little did I know Sr. had the same conversation with every other top renegade in the nation. Now I'm going to run some names down, see if they sound familiar. Follow along, if you will. So we're all called into Harrisburg. It was like a who's who of wrestling. There are about 25 guys here. Paul Orndorff, Jimmy Snuka, George the Animal Steel, Mr. Fuji, Andre the Giant, Adrian Adonis, Jesse Ventura, David Schultz, Ken Patera, Sergeant Slaughter, and all these other rebels. It was first thing in the morning, and we had all come off the road from wherever we were, and no one had any idea they were calling a meeting. We were hungover, tired, rode hard, and miserable. All we knew that it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and we had to do interviews that day and wrestle 3 times later that evening. 3 times later. So everyone was doing what they had to do to come alive. Chugging a pot of coffee, dancing on a mountain in Peru. Andre's got his wine. Mr. Fuji sitting over there with his garlic. All of a sudden, Vince Sr. and Jim Barnett used to run World Championship Wrestling when it was in Australia, closed up when it was over and went to Georgia, and Georgia Championship Wrestling became World Championship Wrestling. Check it out. There's another book, now I'm getting my hands on it again, called Stranglehold by Jim Wilson. So they come into the room and they're all standing around trying to figure out what's going on. They all ask us to find a seat and sit down like we're in school. But I'm going to switch around a little bit. They're all ears and they wanted to know what the heck they wanted. They brought in some puny guy, an announcer whose name was Vince McMahon Jr. That's Vincent K. Everybody knows Vincent K. He stood between Vince and Barnett. What a power play. So they thought. What were they trying to do? Fucking intimidate us? They sat 25 top guys down thinking we'd be eager to hear what they had to say, but they were wrong. We were all established stars who had proven our drawing power over the years and could get jobs anywhere. The McMahons and Barnett were shitting in their pants, and we sat with a "what the fuck do you want" look on our faces. Vince Sr. had a habit of shaking quarters in his hand, and let me tell you, those quarters were going a mile a minute that day, because he realized, I think he realized, we're all in this we're the chosen one bullshit. Told him the same thing. 25 guys. And Barnett was no better as he frankly stood in front of us in his Armani suit, smelling his tie and looking around for the nearest exit. They all proceeded to tell us that Vince Jr., some freaking announcer, was going to open the orders. Well, we all wanted to know what fucking orders they were talking about because if it was for breakfast, we all could have gone for a nice steak with some eggs at that moment. But we going to stick around. Let's see. It was the first time that the wrestlers pretty much had the promoters by the nads. They knew they had the promoters backed against the wall and there was nothing they can do. But what were they going to say? McMahon cut short his speech and asked if anyone had any questions, and the room was silent. You could feel the tension, we could feel the power that we had. But then Tony Atlas, a big and strong black wrestler, broke the silence when he raised his hand and said, "Excuse me, Miss McMahon, I got a question. You see, Miss McMahon, every night I see Arnie, that's Arnie Scollin, and I get me in advance. At the end of the week, when I get my paycheck, my check ain't that big." The room was quiet again, and Don Morocco slowly turned to Atlas and said, "You stupid asshole. And this is why." At this time, let's give credit where credit is due. McMahon seized the moment. This is Junior. And he said to Atlas, "Well, you see, Tony, I know you guys are wrestlers. But 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 minus 1 equals 1. So you see, as you take away, it gets smaller and smaller." He's talking to us like we're a bunch of fucking kindergartners. For 3 glorious seconds, we've been triumphant. There was a feeling of solidarity in that room, and we felt we were finally getting the respect we thought we deserved. We had conquered the promoters until Tony Atlas asked a magic question, and McMahon rolled with it. Senior's quarters started shuffling a little slower. Barnett started sniffing his tie, and the red left Junior's face. We were now on equal ground again. Yeah, they wanted him to wrestle for New York. Basically, you get 25 of the top draws in the country at that time, around the early 80s, and you get them all at one shot to do something that's never been done before. And basically, what it was the basis of McMahon not building building, so to speak, his territory around the wrestler. He wanted to build a brand, and he eventually got away with it. Instead of giving the significance to the wrestler, he wanted his thing. I'm going to go further into that in detail later on, but that's just a little bit of food for thought for you guys. Let's see. Sports entertainment, the sickness versus competition versus technique. How small is the world? Well, like I said, till next week, folks. This is Red. This is Shaka. Black Magic. This is the other side of ropes. And I'm going to drink some peppermint tea to get the rest of my voice back. I'm out.